Hello, everybody. How you doing? Hey, listen, I want you to make sure that you're a part of this conversation that we're about to have. The reason why is because one of the things for me is I've been raised always talking about or thinking about the context of legacy. And sometimes when I think about those things, I think about how I'm gonna be, leaving my legacy with my boys and with those that know me. But the gentleman that I'm about to talk with, I would say took it to another level. And one of the things that he did is he put it in a book form. And so we're going to have this conversation, and I want to make sure that you're a part of it. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and let's jump right in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Focus on Greatness podcast. I am your host, Ham Roche, and here on this platform, we highlight ways where men can be able to experience greatness in their everyday lives. And today, I want to say I have a very awesome man that's on today that I will be able to get a chance to talk with and really get a chance to learn his story, and we'll be able to hear more about him. But this conversation, I believe, is going to be very, very impactful. And I want to make sure that you stay along in this conversation. But before we dive in, I want to make sure if this is your very first time watching or you've been listening, but you have not done this on the podcast platform, and that is to subscribe. I want you to make sure that you subscribe on any of the major platforms or any of the platforms, talking about Google Podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Anchor, the majority of millions of other places that you can be able to continue these conversations with me, because I want to make sure not only are you subscribed, but you're staying involved in this. So that's also making sure that you're subscribed and you're following me on YouTube, as well as for those that are watching on Twitch. You can make sure that you're staying notified of these conversations, because these conversations are what I consider as conversations that are helping us in our lives. Now, for those that are watching this right now live, I want you to do me a favor: share, like, and follow. So share this. I want you to share this with a couple group of people, family and friends. And I want to make sure that you allow them to be a part of this conversation, but also make sure that you like. If you are ready, I want you to do me a favor. If you're ready for the person that I'm about to bring on, show some love in the comments. Make sure that you give a round of applause for Jason Martin. How you doing, sir?
Well, it's happening, my brother. I appreciate the invite, and then you and I have talked about this before, but I love the intro. The music's good.
Thank you,
You got
sir.
this thing down to a rhythm, man, and I'm excited to be a guest.
I'm trying my hardest. Well, Jason, let's do this. Do me a favor and kind of introduce yourself to the audience and to the viewers that are first time being able to know who you are. Kind of introduce yourself.
Yep. So I'm Jason Martin, and we've got a book out there. We released it in April. It's called "This Is Your Captain Speaking: Life Lessons of the Journey So Far," and it's a living legacy for my family. And I'm happy to share some of the content with you guys today, and hopes that it'll maybe get you to kind of scratch your head and maybe start to think a little bit about what you want your legacy to be for your family or friends. And I don't know. I hope you find the conversation useful today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's do this. I like to kind of get a chance to get to know a little bit of your backstory. So kind of take me back some time and give me a little bit of history on kind of how you got into or started, really, and we can go from there.
Yeah, that's one of the questions that comes up. It's like, how did you become an author? How did you decide to write a book? I always tell everybody the same thing. It ended up being a personal growth journey. And what I mean by that is I never, it wasn't like a childhood dream to be an author, or I didn't say, hey, look, I want to be a professional writer or anything like that. But what I have done in my own life is continue to figure out ways to become the best version of myself possible, to become the best father and husband that I can be. And what I've learned through that process is the way to actually be able to do that as selfish as this might sound, is to focus on me. And what do I mean by that? Each and every day, I'm trying to take steps in a direction to be the best version of myself possible. And those closest to me will reap those benefits. My kids, my wife, my family members, my friends. And that's how the journey started. And then it led to writing a book because I wanted to challenge myself with something I never thought I would do. In fact, I've had friends who've written books and they told me about the experience and how they did it. And at the time I was like, that doesn't sound interesting at all. It sounds awful. You got to write every day 1,000 or 1,500 words. In fact, I felt copy editing in college. And, my brain continued to wanted to explore it. And ultimately I issued myself a challenge one day. It was around the holiday season, about a couple of years ago, almost 2 years ago to date. And I said, you know what? I'm going to write a book. I've never done it. I know it's very much a challenge, and I know it's going to challenge me. Don't have many expectations of what the results will be, but let's just see if I can do something I never thought possible. And the experience has been amazing. I'm on a ton of podcasts. We became an Amazon bestseller, and all from writing a book for my family. And just handing off a legacy, and this thing's taken an entire journey of its own, and I'm just grateful to be able to share the stories and the lessons that I've learned along the way.
That's great, Jason. I'm grateful that you did it as well. I'm grateful that you took the time to take that chance and really launch out to be able to write this book and take the time really to document, I would say, some things about you. Now, what in this book, and in this book, we'll probably go back and forth in reference to talking about the book, but in the book, what would be some of the core pieces that you're sharing or talking about in this book that I would say that you are leaving as your legacy?
Yeah, well, you had put up a piece of the book in one of the previous screens there. I don't know if you can pull that back up or not. Oh, you're quick. I'll read it to you. It says, "One day I will leave this earth as we all do, and this book shall serve as a reminder of who Dad was, my beliefs, my priorities, and my core values. I'm perfectly imperfect, as we all are." And that's that right there. I'm glad you picked that spot, because that kind of sums it up right there. And I just wanted to put it out there in that way. And when the book came out back in April and it got delivered here to my house and the kids ripped into it, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if they would like it or not like it or whatever. But they jumped into it. They read it. They loved it. And I got to show them through that experience that, hey, if there's something you think you want to do out there, give it a shot. You don't know what the result will be, and let us not determine what we think it'll be. Just go for it and see what happens. And that's the experience. That's the absolute experience we had with writing the book.
That's great. Now in those, I guess you would say, bullet points of things that are dived into this book. One of the things that you talked about or stated was your priorities. Let's dive into what are your priorities.
I don't think you can have many of them and be successful. And I'm not sure how your listeners will define success. But for me, success is defined pretty simply, and that's to be the best father and husband I can be. And when you set out on a mission like that, you really can't have a ton of priorities. You got to have a select few. I don't think we can be great at many, many things. I'm not sure I'm great at any. I'm working on a lot of them, not a lot of them, but I'm working on continuing to be to be as good in those areas as I can be. My number one priority, without a doubt, is my family, and I'm just super clear about that. It guides my professional decisions. It guides my personal decisions. And for me, having that clarity, not that everybody doesn't have it, but I'm super clear about it. Having that clarity just allows me to sort of do what I think are the right things on a pretty regular basis. And because of that, I'm happy to report I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty fulfilled, and I get to watch my kids. My twins are now freshmen in high school, and I got a fourth grader. And we've been along for the journey. My wife and I talked about it the other day. We're not sure we've done everything right. In fact, we probably haven't.
Right.
But when our twins go off on their own in college or whatever they decide to do, we already know we're going to be able to look back and say we were there for as much of it as we could be. We enjoyed as much as we could. We gave them everything we had while they were under our roof. Not that we're in a rush to get them out, but to be able to be in that conversation 4 or 5 years before they're going to depart our house, and know with confidence that we gave it a go, and in a way that we hope will be impactful in something that they can hand down to if they have kids one day or grandchildren, whatever it looks like. But that's what my wife and I are trying to do.
Yeah, no, I love that because, when you talk about priorities, like you said, you can't have a lot of them. And, but some people's priorities might not be specifically like yours in reference to talking about their priorities is family first. And they're building and cultivating things around it. But the thought process that came to my mind was that something that you were raised with, or was that something that you kind of gained over time?
Yeah, that's something that was handed down from my mom, and we always knew that my sister and I were her number one priority. So that's just came in that format. To this day, there's never any doubt about that. Her grandchildren know that. So it was handed down. I'm not going to take credit for it, but I like to say we've expanded upon it and tweaked it into our own version of that. But it came down from there. And what's interesting is if you look at my mom's story, and we all have stories, it wasn't handed down to her.
Okay.
So I think she realized what she didn't have growing up, and flipped the script and turned it into me and my sister. And then now we're handing it down. So I was on another call this morning, and the gentleman we were talking about this exact topic of how you can turn bad into good, and how in so many ways it actually does happen. I'm not saying there's a ton of bad, but like if you go back to my mom's childhood, for instance, it certainly wasn't great. And then now you could look at it and say, all right, well, I know I was her number one priority. And then I can say the same thing. My kids, if they don't say that, shame on them, but they should know.
Well, that was another thing I was thinking about, because I know you said when, it was 2 years you took in reference to just really cultivating, writing the book, putting all that in, the work in. But when it actually came, your children then had an opportunity to kind of see for themselves the work that you put in. They were able to read it, and different things like that. What was some of the first thought that came to my mind was, I was thinking about, man, if I wrote a book, would what I'm writing in the book, would my children say, yeah, that's right, Dad. Yeah, that is what you actually do. That was the first thought that came to mind, as well as what was kind of the impact of how they felt when they saw the book.
Well, it was an amazing experience, and they literally, a box of them came and they showed up on the dining room table, and they all grabbed it, and they all jumped into it right away. It doesn't take long to read, a night or two, and you'll read the whole thing. They each have their own chapters in the book, so they loved that. What was funny about that is I expected their own chapters to be their favorites, but it wasn't automatically the case. So we've got a chapter in the book called The 5-Gallon Bucket, which is about how work ethic was instilled in me at a very young age in life, and through working with my dad in the projects in inner DC, and my son loved that chapter. So I'm like, oh, that's amazing. And so he's taken a piece of that, and I know he'll hold on to that. And look, at the end of the day, if I leave the earth tomorrow, I feel that we left them something that they can always look back. That'll always be there, and it's no doubt it's true to form. And it's called "This Is Your Captain Speaking." And I know we've got a picture of a nice relaxing beach on the cover there. But the funny part of it is it really isn't about a boat journey. I'm the and I put this in the book. I'm the captain of what I call the Martin Express, which is our Honda minivan. And so when we go on family trips, I always get on my pretend microphone and it goes like this. This is your captain speaking. Welcome aboard the Martin Express. We're en route to Columbia, South Carolina. Sit back, relax. You need anything at all, the fine young lady next to me, and that's their mom, is happy to get you whatever you need. The funny part about that story is within 60 seconds of us leaving our driveway, the kids need something. So my wife's up out of it. So I don't want the listeners or the readers to be confused at all. Sure, one day I'll be a captain of a nice, relaxing sailboat like that's in that picture. But the reality is I'm the captain of our minivan. And that's what I'm talking about. Fun side note, everything in the book has some meaning to me. And I think it's applicable to a lot of families and a lot of parents out there. The cover of the book is a picture of that my wife and I got when we went to Aruba for our honeymoon many years ago. And I made that the cover of the book because I thought it all matched together. So everything's got meaning.
No, that's what, because one of the questions that I actually was thinking in my mind is I said, I want to ask him, where did the title come from?
That's it.
And so now we clearly understand this aspect. Yeah, that's funny. I love that. I love that.
We just had fun with it, man. And we just had a lot of fun with it. And the version that you have of the book is the second version. The first version, I don't think will ever be printed. When you challenge yourself, you never know what's going to happen if you're just open to exploring things you didn't think were possible. So the first version of the book was going to be a business self-help book. And I wrote it. I was pumped. We handed it over to the content editor. And the content editor said, "Boy, you missed your mark." And I was like, oh, it was so hard to write this book and I missed my mark. And she said, "But where you really got excited was when you talk about your family in the book." And she said, "If you can write it from that, I think you're on to something." And it took me 3 weeks to recover from that punch in the gut there. And I got back up and we wrote it. And that's what This Is Your Captain Speaking is all about. But isn't there a lesson baked into that? Like, cool. You got to get back up when you get knocked down in life, right? I didn't want to write another book. I just spent 9 months writing a book. But I got back up. And because I got back up, I'm on this podcast and it became an Amazon bestseller. And I actually received, this is news to me, but I actually received a check in my bank account from book sales. I'm like, wow, what the heck is happening here? and it all started with like, hey, I just want to be the best version of myself possible. And I think this is a challenge that I want to accept for myself.
Yeah, no. And I'm really loving the not just your transparency about how this process went, but really the aspect of it is like you're saying, the entry of all of this started with you just wanting to continue to be better, continue to grow, continue to develop. And in the process of you doing that, you kind of walked into something that has now been able to leave a mark within your own family. Like you said, that will be able to last for generations to generations. And it sounds like it was the importance was more of what you would leave your children in reference to through this book versus the residual or these other pieces that's coming now with it, the bestseller and and all the income that might be coming from it, and those type of things. It sounds like that was more the importance.
It was the book came from the heart, and when you do that, that's all that matters, right? Like for me anyway, it came from there, and the rest is the rest. I didn't attach any outcomes to it. Like I wasn't like, I gotta do this or I gotta do that. Your mind wanders a little bit. What would it look like if this happened or that happened? But I didn't attach any outcomes to it, and for me that worked out pretty well. And I just went with it. and that's it. And like I said, my kids got to see that. They got to experience that. They got to go through that process with me. I
Yeah.
didn't release the book to them early. They had to wait until it arrived here at the house. And there was even a point in time where my daughter and I were interviewing a New York Times bestselling author.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to take my daughter to meet somebody and talk with somebody that was doing something that we thought was pretty cool, New York Times bestseller. And I wanted to teach her a lesson of, like, you got to ask questions. You got to go
Yeah.
meet people. You got to talk to
Right.
people. And
Yeah.
so I was actually trying to teach my daughter a lesson. And little did I know, just by that exercise, I'm sure that impacted the decision to actually write the book one day.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to just trying to do the right things, be the best version of yourself possible, teach your kids the things you think matter most. And
Mm.
you just don't know what's going to happen if
Right.
you open your mind up to exploring possibilities, being curious, asking questions,
Mhm.
and jumping into conversations, and just see, because who knows, man. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
what's next.
Right. No, and that's truthful because, for those that are listening, those that are watching, I do want you to, I would say, really hear what I hope you hear what I'm hearing. And it's that as he continues to just go after being the best version of him and pushing his boundaries and going after the thing he loves, there are things that are happening just as a result of. It's in and it's genuinely these moments are genuinely opening up because he's really going after, again, which we talked about before, which is your focal point, the thing that you focus on, or the thing that you have on your priority list of being your first, which is your family, and
Yep.
you continually wanting to be the best version for them. And I'm really, surely as a father, is I'm thinking to myself, I want to make sure I'm doing that for mine. I want to be the best version of myself for them. Be the best father that I can be the best husband that I can be, and continue just to grow and just do the things that I love to do, and hope and pray also that as I'm stepping through these doors and seeing kind of like stretching my own self, that it impacts my sons and impacts them to say, well, maybe I'll try something too. I've been loving to do this, or I've been liking, or I've been thinking about doing this, and I want to kind of stretch out too. So this is, for me, is making me say, as a father, I want to leave that type of impact as well with my children.
Yeah, and that's awesome that you're hearing that and that you got that from the book.
Yeah.
Again, that wasn't a goal for me to influence fathers or parents or
Yeah.
friends or family members, but I'm in a lot of these conversations, and it's happened where people go, oh wait, I'm now thinking about, maybe I need to do something similar for my family. You don't have to write a book. You could start with
Yeah.
journaling, right?
Right.
Start a journal, and that could be pretty impactful.
Yeah.
So for each person, it's a little bit different, and everybody's journey is unique. But it starts. You got it, man. You're nailing it. It starts with an internal look at yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm, again, it's well, for me, I was raised with my mom, so I was raised with a single parent, until I was about 15, 16 years old. And I want to say this year, last year, I was having some conversations with my mom, and started to really want to understand, learn some of her history, learn some of the things about, that she experienced, and just things to that nature. And as I'm listening to her story, I was like, man, I could see myself. Even at, talking to my dad, I was able to, learn certain things about him. And as I'm listening to his story, I'm like, man, I can see that in me. I can see that part of me. I can see where I get that from. Or, I can see, why I look at things the way that I look at, and just learning her story and learning my father's story. I was able to be able to do that. And I want that experience for mine. I want them
Yeah.
to be able to say, I can see me in you, Dad. I can see, that's where I get that compassion from, or that's where I get, wanting to serve people, or, being able to love people the way you do. I can see where I get it from because I'm able to now learn your story. And I think that you taking the time to put it in a document, like you said, it doesn't have to be a book. You don't have to be a writer. You can just journal it. But being able to have that as a document, I think is very powerful for me.
I got to share something with you, and I want to apologize. I'm doing this. Usually, I do the interviews and podcasts from my office, which is very quiet, and
Mhm.
there's no distractions. Well, we're talking about priorities. So it's we're in DC, and it's starting to get colder here, but today's like 65 degrees. So I promised my son that, hey, look,
Mhm.
I'm going to be wrapped up by 4 o'clock. He loves to go fishing. I was like, we'll go fishing right at 4 o'clock. Let's go fishing for 1 hour because it's going to get dark. So that means
Yeah.
I have to come home and do this from my home office, which is about 35 minutes in traffic away from the office, which is quiet,
Mhm.
to make sure, like, I don't want to miss that with him. So I'm
Yeah.
telling you, they're such a priority to me that the distractions and the noise, you're probably going to hear the dog bark in a minute, the front door open. Karen's here helping with the cleaning, and their cell phone's going. It's all
Yeah.
good, but
Right.
I just want to let you know. I'm sorry, man. My priority is these guys at 4 o'clock, and
No.
I gotta go fishing in a bit.
No, you're good. You're good. But this conversation, Jason, has really helped me. It's made me to examine what I want to make sure that I leave behind. The wisdom, your history, how you view and your experiences with your children individually, with your family individually, and allowing them to be able to kind of get a lens of how you see life from your perspective, um, has really impacted me. And
Thank you,
so
man.
I wanted to make sure that in this conversation, I didn't want to end it without making sure that you heard that part, because I don't, even though I think we per se probably long for this, long for being able to know this, but being able to now know someone that's taken the time to actually make sure that they leave this in some form of writing for generation to generation, I think is awesome. And
I can receive that, and thank you for sharing that with me. And
yes, sir.
I'll just issue you a challenge. Like, what? So as you hear it, and you're feeling it, and that's awesome.
Yeah,
So my question for you is, how are you gonna do it? And maybe this is just a conversation that starts you thinking about it, like we're talking about now. But is
yeah.
it through a journal? Is it through creating a podcast library for your family? Like,
Hmm.
how's it going to happen? So if you're listening out there right now and you feel inspired, one, I'm grateful for that. So thank you.
Yes,
But
sir.
I'm also going to challenge you, because you have an opportunity to take this energy
Mhm.
and then apply it to. And that's
Yeah,
a spot where I think people get lost a little bit. We can all get motivated, we can all get excited, but when that excitement wears off, what is there? So my challenge to you here is do it. It doesn't matter what format you do it in necessarily,
hmm,
but take it and do it. And I'd love to hear about it.
yes, sir. Well, Jason, I know we're getting closer and closer to our time, and I want to make sure that you continue to do what you do best, and that's to be the greatest dad ever. I'll say it that way. And but I'm thankful, again, thankful for your time, taking out the time to be a part of the conversation, have a conversation, and inspire and push. And I promise you, I'll let you know what I did, how I feel that I'm gonna leave that imprint for my kids. So I'll be accountable to this conversation.
You're a good man. You'll make my day. And if I don't talk to you before, enjoy the holiday season. And I greatly appreciate you having me on.
Thank you, sir. So thank you all for coming on and listening today. Make sure that you share this with your friends and your family. And we love you. And we'll talk to you next time. Talk to y'all later. Bye bye. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. I pray that this conversation was impactful to you in some form of way. What I want to make sure is that not only are you hearing and learning this information, but that you're taking the time to apply something, some nugget, some piece that you took from this conversation that you can say, I can apply this for my life to be better. I want you to continue to be with me and make sure that you're with me every Monday at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I love you all, and I'll talk to you next time right here on the Focus on Greatness family. Bye-bye.